So now that we can enter and confirm a number, let's make sure that we're able to switch to a game screen once we get a number. And for this, we already have this game screen JS file, but at the moment it's empty. Therefore, it makes sense to also add a functional component in there because, of course, this new screen will also be a component in the end. So we export this component here. And then here, for a start, I will add some text where I just say game screen. And we have to import this text component from React Native, of course, otherwise it's not available. Now this screen here should be displayed as soon as the user picked a number. How can we do that? Well, later in the course, in the navigation section, we will learn about a third-party package that helps with navigating between different screens. But we can also navigate without that package, and to keep things simpler for the moment, I will show you how you can do this without any external dependencies. Because in the end, you just have to keep in mind that we can use standard React tools like state to change what's visible on the screen. And we just want to swap this start game screen here in the app component with the game screen as soon as we have a number. So all we have to do for that is manage some extra state in this app component that basically keeps track of the fact whether we have a number or not. So we can import use state from React here in the app component. And then we want to register some state here with use state. And that state that I do want to register here in the end is simply the number picked by the user. So the user number, for example, which we can set with this state updating function. And initially this is null. We could also set it to 0, but I will set it to null, so to undefined to be precise, to make it clear that we have no number initially. Now we can add a function, let's say the start game handler or the picked number handler, whatever name you want to use. And here I expect to get the picked number, so the number picked by the user. And once a number was picked and confirmed, we know that the game should start. So here we get the picked number once it is confirmed, or at least that's the plan. And then here we can set the user number to that picked number. Now, why is this helpful? Because now we can use this user number state here to either render the start game screen if we have no user number yet, or render the game screen if we do have a user number. So for this, we can import the game screen here from /screens/game screen. And then here I'll add a helper variable called screen, which is the start game screen by default. But I'll then add a if check here directly in my component function. And therefore this if check will be re-executed whenever this component function is re-executed, which will be the case whenever state changes. And in here I'll check if user number, if this is truthy, which will not be the case if it's null or undefined, which it is initially. But if it's truthy, so not null and not 0, which can't be the case because we validate for this in the start game screen. So if it is a valid number, then we'll make it into this if block. And in that case, I'll set the screen variable here to the game screen. And then we just have to render this screen variable here in the JSX code instead of the hard-coded start game screen. So now we either display start game screen or game screen. Of course, at the moment though, picked number handler will never execute, which is a problem. Now we do want to execute whenever a number is confirmed inside of start game screen. And again, we can use props for that, and we can pass a pointer to this function to start game screen with help of props, so that this function can be executed from inside the start game screen component. And this is a standard pattern in React, which we used before with the primary button and the onPress prop we accepted there, and which we will now use again with start game screen. So here we could have a onPickNumber or onConfirmNumber, whatever you want. I'll go with onPickNumber. It's your component, so the prop name is up to you. And here I will point at PickedNumberHandler. Now we just have to accept and use this prop inside of start game screen. And therefore in this component, we can use props here or object destructuring to automatically pull out this prop from the incoming props object. And then here we want to execute that whenever a number is picked and confirmed. And that is the case in the confirm input handler after this if check where we currently log to the console. Instead of logging to the console, I now want to execute onPickNumber, and very important, I want to forward the number that has been picked. Because in app.js, I expect to get this picked number. So in start game screen, when we call the function received on this prop, which will be the PickedNumberHandler function, there we now want to pass the picked number as an argument to that function. So we want to pass the chosen number, which is our converted and validated number, to this function. Well, and with that, if we save everything, if I enter something invalid, we still get the same behavior as before. But if I enter something valid here, this disappears and I'm on the game screen, as you can see here in the top left corner. Of course, the game screen has absolutely no layout and therefore it looks horrible, but we successfully switched the screen. And now we can build up on this and start working on that game screen.